I'm just going to have a go at this. Everyone keeps talking about how difficult it is. Oh, there we go. All right, grand. Hello, everybody. Thank you for staying in the room. You've made it. We're almost at the end of the day. My name is Jane Wells. I am the program manager at Tate Exchange. It's a program at Tate Modern, a huge ship of an institution in London. We have now surpassed the British Museum as the most visited tourist attraction in London, with over 5.9 million visitors last year. I have been working there for 4 years. My background is I'm an activist and community organizer. I'm from Northern Ireland. I started working at Tate Exchange 4 years ago, and for the past year, I have been working with the Cuban artist Tania Bruguera and 21 people who live or work locally to the museum to think about Tate Modern as an international global institution and what we can do, how we can learn from and how we can adapt to our neighbours. Just whiz through with some background. So Tate Exchange is located on the 5th floor of the Blavatnik building at Tate Modern. We opened 3 years ago. Not as a space for things or objects, but a place for conversations, for debate. We're open 6 days a week. It's always free. There's always something to do. The invitation is always to participate. And it's really as simple as that. I work with over 60 associate organizations to develop the program, as well as international artists, but most importantly, our visitors who are collaborators in everything that we do. So it's a space to play, create, reflect, and question what art can mean to our everyday lives. This is Barbara. Barbara is an 86-year-old woman who lives next door to Tate Modern. Her flat, you can see just behind her in that photograph, it literally overlooks Tate Exchange. Barbara's lived in the neighborhood for 36 years. When I first met Barbara, it was the first day that we opened Tate Exchange to the public in September 2016. And she confessed to me that day that she was thinking about moving the neighborhood. She was experiencing increasing isolation. She didn't know anyone who lived around her. And we had a program that day where we were inviting visitors to simply sit down at a table and be in conversation with others about topics such as love, money and work, and ephemera. Barbara came the first day, she came back the next day, she came back again the next day, and she just started to come back every single day to Tate Exchange. I spoke to Barbara about 6 months into knowing her, and I asked her if she was still thinking about leaving the neighborhood, and she said that she wasn't. And she gestured around Tate Exchange space and said, "How could I leave when I found this spiritual home so close to me?" And I'm sure many of you as museum practitioners have experienced relationships or witnessed change in people like Barbara. And, you know, a big part of Tate Exchange became thinking about how we could bring experiences like we were having and that we were witnessing in people like Barbara and filter it through the rest of the institution, how we could create a space that felt like home and that had a warm welcome for more people. At that same time that I was starting to ask these questions, I was working with the security officers at Tate Modern on enhancing welcome in the building. I met Tania Bruguera. As an activist and a community organizer and somebody who believes in art institutions as a powerful vehicle for social change, I was so excited to meet Tania. I'm a massive fangirl. For people who don't know Tania, she's Cuban. She's an artist who works to challenge powerful institutions, most recently and probably most famously the Cuban government. She works a lot with migrants. She works a lot on freedom of expression and censorship against artists. And so Tania had been chosen to be the Turbine Hall Commission artist at Tate Modern. And one of the things that she said from the very beginning was that she wanted to not lead on the commission herself, but to be in conversation with others, and that she wanted Tate Exchange to work with her to develop this project. And so came about the Tate Neighbours. So this is an image of Tate Modern, the big ship. We are located in the building on the, just get my bearings, on the left-hand side. That's the Blavatnik building, the new wing of Tate Modern. We have over 10 floors of galleries and just our one floor dedicated to exchange of experience. If you look around the building, you'll notice the extreme range in who lives next to us. We have billionaire neighbours. There's a 250-year-old almshouse next door. There are artists, there's council housing, there are independent businesses, there are big businesses. We also have many visiting residents. The Tate Modern over the years had become a site for activism, and so we had a lot of activists that we were already engaged with in the conversation. And so we invited all of these people to come into a meeting with us and with Tanya, simply with the provocation that we would sit together and that we would talk and that we'd be critical of the institution and think through together ideas of how we might be better for our local community. You'll see from this in the beginning, it wasn't an easy process to begin with. We invited in a group with very diverse opinions, and there was an agreement that we would always work to consensus decision making. So we made a commitment with time. The first time that we met was in June last year, and we spent a lot of time just simply getting to know each other. I'll just say a little bit about how we work. We agreed from the very beginning, there was a big part of the commission budget that would be reserved for this project and that everybody would be paid. We wanted the neighbours to agree how much they would be paid. We spent about a month just having that conversation. We meet twice a week. And so we had a month talking about the value of their knowledge, them as experts in their own locality. And so we agreed everybody gets paid £50 per session. So each session is 2 hours. They practice active listening. We have house rules that we wrote together. And so through all of this process of getting to know each other and talking, and not just talking with me, I should say, this is Frances Morris, who was the director of Tate Modern. So Tate Modern, again, the big ship, it's an incredibly hierarchical institution, but a big role of Tate Exchange in the institution is actually breaking down and rethinking those hierarchies. And so it was really important for us that Frances joined us at those meetings. Barbara and Frances, of course, have become great friends and enjoyed very rich conversation. The neighbours, quickly, we wrote a manifesto together. And the most important line in this manifesto and what we've carried through the year is that at times when thoughts and words are not enough, action must become our common language. So after months of talking, we committed to taking direct action within the institution. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to speed through this, but I hope we can talk about it. So one of the first actions that we've taken as a group is that we renamed one of the buildings at Tate Modern. This has already been mentioned. So I've told you already, Tate Exchange is located in the Blavatnik building at Tate Modern. Len Blavatnik is one of the richest men in the UK. He paid for the building to be completed, for which we're incredibly grateful. But we had another building that didn't have a name on it. A lot of the conversation that we had with the neighbours in the beginning was talking about power and where power sits within the institution and what it means to have people's names on buildings and how that reflects what we're doing inside. And so we agreed that we would find an upstanding citizen, a neighbour, somebody who's worked selflessly and tirelessly for decades to better the lives of their neighbours. We did a voting system with all of the groups submitting proposals, and we talked again at length about who they would select, and they came to a conclusion that Natalie Bell would have her name on the building. She's the lady in the centre here. Natalie is a youth worker in the neighbourhood, and she has worked to really tirelessly and completely off her own back and never seeking recognition for her work. To really better the lives of the people around her. The neighbours also wrote terms and conditions for people visiting the building. That comes up when you log into the Wi-Fi, you're immediately confronted with that. Natalie is now at the advisory council, so we have, as neighbours, infiltrated the governance structure of the institution. This is a protest that took place in the Turbine Hall at Tate Modern. Tanya was arrested in December of the process of working with her. The neighbours were really keen, everything that we do at Tate Modern, we have artists at the centre of everything that we do. And Tanya was arrested for speaking out against a law that would effectively ban all independent cultural production in Cuba. And so overnight, we had 150 T-shirts printed by a local community partner, and we gathered along with Index on Censorship, Amnesty International, PEN, to really speak out about this acceleration of censorship against artists around the world, not just Tanya, but Shahid Al-Alam in Bangladesh, Jamal Khashoggi, Ai Weiwei, Sarah Dogan in Turkey. And that felt like a really important change for us as an institution, that we were able to bring activists and activism in-house and not just rely on people storming into the turbine hall. And that's something that we're pursuing. The Neighbours now, we're constantly evolving. I'm sorry, I've gone way over time. This is a picture of a recent demo that we've had. We occupied the local bus service that was going to be cut, and we sat on the bus and we talked to people about why the bus matters. I should have said at the beginning, this project is a year old and we're continuing to work with the Neighbours. I have a commitment to work with them for a further 2 years, and it really feels like it's just the beginning. Thank you. And it really feels like it's just the beginning and not just rely